All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the We the Locals podcast. My name is Josie.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Stuart.
And we thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you could please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel as well as this episode, we would greatly appreciate it. Maybe take a moment and send the link out to anyone that might be interested in hearing about all things local. Maybe also not so local considering how popcorn worthy the national news is tonight. So I'm telling you, I was like trying to do some show prep and like see what's going on in the local world, and every feed is full of like national drama, and I'm just not sure how to handle that.
Let's make it local drama.
Let's make it local
instead.
drama. Yes, we'll talk about our local drama. But if you could, yes, like I said, please share the link out. We would love to hear from you. So if you would like to reach us, you can drop us a Rumble rant or a super chat. If you'd like to donate, you can also just give us a comment or a question. We always love hearing from our audience, as well as you can if you'd like to sponsor the show to keep our lights on, we'd greatly appreciate it. You can do that through our website. And if you are, or you'd like to just donate to keep our lights on, you can do that too. If you are a candidate or a business that'd like to get your name out, we will do that for you. And yeah, I think, shoot, there was one other thing I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to say now, and I'll also say at the end of the show, just a quick reminder that we are going to be taking a slight sabbatical from the podcast for the summer, just to, because it is off season a little bit with politics, to kind of give ourselves a little time to breathe and take a deep breath and get ready before we dive headfirst into the 2026 cycle. So we will not be having an episode for the second episode in June, and the 2 episodes in July that we normally have scheduled, we will not be airing, and we will come back strong on August 5th? 7th. This is why I'm not in charge of the dates. August 7th is why I'm not in charge of the numbers. I don't do any of the numbers. This is the reason. On August 7th, and we'll have a very special guest joining us that day as we launch back into our fall season, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's going to be our 50th episode.
Woo-hoo! It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So join us. Make sure you mark your calendars right now. Set a reminder on your phone to tune in at 7 p.m. on August 7th. And we will see you then to pick up our fall season.
Make sure if you haven't subscribed to our website that you go ahead and do that, because then the links come right to your email, and then it's really easy. So you can just look in your email. You can click either YouTube or Rumble, and you'll be able to catch us live, and you'll get all of the updates reminding you when our episodes are. You're going to hear lots from us on our Facebook and social
X. Follow us on X. That's
yes.
probably one of our most active socials.
So we'll keep everybody updated.
All of those socials will be going. We're still going to be updating, exactly. But we just won't be talking. Unless there's something crazy happens and we need to do like a go live.
So you're going to take a month and a half and not talk at all?
Only to used to. Nice break for me. Sorry, Jessica.
Funny. No, that's all right.
I'm saying I'm sorry for you.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get that break.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
Kidding. Spicy. We're having fun, folks. We're having fun.
We're going to go out with a bang tonight, that's for sure. So very exciting. So this is episode 49, and we will be coming back August 7th for episode 50.
Woohoo!
So that's
late on the draw, Stu.
So that's very exciting. And we have really exciting things coming up about the podcast. So we'll kind of chat about that a little bit more at the end of the night. Let's go ahead and get into our local stuff.
Let's do it.
Is there anything that you wanted to go over, Josie?
I'm not going to lie. I have taken this last couple weeks have really kicked my tush. May is rough because it is the end. It seems like I always go through like November and December thinking, wow, can't get any busier than this. And then May hits. And May's like, excuse me, here I am. And it's like between like all of the end of the year stuff for my kids at school and parties and birthdays, and there's just events and just stuff going on. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. And we are like eyeballs deep in ballet rehearsals. So if anybody's looking for anything to do this weekend and you'd like to see some local talent, my girls are going to be dancing in a couple shows at Olympic Heights. And you can message for more details if you would like. It's going to be Friday night, Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon, different shows. One of them is a take on the Wizard of Oz, which is really, really cute.
Aww.
Really cute. So I'm excited. But
that's awesome.
So honestly, I've been watching, but like I said, everything on X is all like national news right now. And so all of my like updates, I will say the budget, we still don't have a budget. Today is I'm going to take that line from Dan Bongino where like he did like all during the Biden presidency where he was like, today is da-da-da, and Joe Biden is still the worst president in U.S. history. Today is Thursday, June 5th, and we still do not have a budget in the state of Florida.
That's very interesting. Stu and I went to the RPOF meeting right after. Right,
did they talk about that?
Yes, actually, and I was actually very impressed because if you understand party politics, you get to see like how it all fits together. You know, have you ever? You know those Russian dolls that are like stackable that like they get bigger or smaller as you you know.
I mean, we're boycotting all of that kind of stuff right now. So, but
right,
no,
of
I'm
course.
just kidding. I'm kidding. I got jokes, guys.
But you know, so it's kind of like the big mammoth is the RNC, right? You know, and then you have the RPOF, which is our state level, and then you have the REC, which is our county level. And so when you have a state like Florida that is a bright red state, and we have a very, you know, like our elected leaders at the state level, the majority that we have a super majority in the House and Senate that are all Republicans. So the party's job is to kind of keep everybody under the tent. Right. And so under good leadership, you end up, you know, like, it's kind of like the mommy and the poppy that are like, you know, trying to get everybody to play along.
To wear the I Get Along shirt?
Yeah. And so, you know, Evan Power, you know, at the RPOF meeting, you know, what was that, 2 weekends ago now?
Yep.
He actually said, he goes, look, yes, there's infighting. Yes, our representatives and our senators are not in agreement. But what they're not in agreement on is how much money and how to save money to the taxpayers. So of all the things that we're going to disagree about, that's a really good thing to be in disagreement about.
Yes.
And I was like, that is leadership. That is leadership.
That's a good point.
Because that is a great point.
It is a great point.
So, you know, as we
Still not happy, but yes.
Right. So, granted, it was supposed to be done
a month ago.
Technically, we have until July. So, okay, let them iron this out. But so far, from my understanding, they're going to be canceling commercial rents, which is good. The sales, the tax
there's
on,
like a whole
commercial
list
rents.
of things.
So that's huge. That's huge for business owners, small business owners especially. It's huge for me because I have to calculate, you know, corporate commercial rents on a monthly basis. So I love it. So bookkeepers love it. Anybody who, you know, files state, you know, sales tax for commercial rents, you know, that's a great thing for them. Residential rents don't get taxed, so, you know, don't have sales tax, so it doesn't, you know, apply. But this is something, you know, for commercial rents that, you know, that's a very good, you know, that's a very big deal. And then they're ironing out a few of the other details. So
sorry, go ahead.
I have high hopes, and with good political leadership within the party of saying like, hey, you know, and you can't really. If you have never gone to an RPOF meeting, if you have never seen a meeting, if you have not sat in committees, you know, you really don't know what's going on. And so instead of like calling for a mass exodus of our Republican leadership, maybe give them a call and have a conversation and talk with them, or your state committee man and your state committee woman can help guide in these type of scenarios as well. You know, or your local, you know, your local precinct committeemen and women, if they're knowledgeable or have any information, is not everything is the way that it seems. So I went in there coming fresh off of the podcast. our whole conversation, we don't have a budget.
Yep.
And then hearing this from Evan Power and actually having a conversation over cocktails and asking him a few questions and talking with him, I felt a lot better. So it was like, okay, I get it now. Like, this is really what the issue is. I really wish that we could get them more accountable with insurance, and
They should do something about insurance.
right. So there's a lot of issues that aren't being discussed and talked about, but I am thankful they're taking the extra time and working on ways that they can give money back to the taxpayers. I know Deborah Tendrick, who is a Democrat for 89.
Mm-hmm.
She's the state representative for 89. She is on the tax committee property tax committee about working with counties and municipalities about how, if you were to take away property or ad valorem taxes, what's the and then what question. And so she's actually been pretty vocal about it on socials and what she's doing. She wants to hear from everybody. I know county administration had a whole meeting with her. So, that's good. Things are moving in the right direction, and we don't want to leave our municipalities and our county without able to fund for fire and police and all of that kind of stuff. But also at the same time is that Governor DeSantis is right, in my opinion. When you have to pay taxes, you're renting your home. Mm-hmm. You're not actually owning it. Yet, however, there are services that are in your community
that you need to pay for.
That you need to pay for. So there's trying to find that balance and how it works out. So it's going to be interesting to see how it and everybody, like the state is working on their budget, but your county and your municipalities are also working on their budgets. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and they're kind of waiting for the state to figure out what they're doing so that then they can be able to make their line item adjustments and everything accordingly within the local budgets.
So a couple things that I did find interesting that I've got some information on is, so lawmakers of the Senate are putting reporting requirements on several executive branch allocations within the budget. So what that means, so for example, the instance here is the Department of Revenue is set to get millions for an electronic file and pay system. But the department must submit monthly status reports to the House and Senate appropriators and the Governor's Office of Policy and Budget. So to quote Senate President Ben Albatron, is new reporting requirements throughout the budget will safeguard taxpayer dollars and improve accountability, transparency, and oversight of government spending. So I do like that. So I do think they are being intentional about it. I just think that they should have done it in the allocated time that they had in order to do it and not be distracted by all of the insane, silly things that they were.
They put their pet projects and stuff
they all
ahead,
exactly.
ahead
And that
of,
if
ahead
I would
of the
do
budget.
if someone were to do that in the corporate world,
Yeah.
ahead of their actual job, be like, well, I know that this is my job, but I want to play this and I want to do this and I want to create this project. The boss is gonna be like, no, do your job first and do your job well, and then we can talk about all the fun projects, that the coding or the whatever you want to create. So as a taxpayer, as the boss, so to speak, of the electeds, that's what bugs me, is the fact that they put their pet projects first, that they didn't take the time seriously that they were allocated to pass a budget, and they focused on nonsense, taking DeSantis down, fighting with each other, silly projects that didn't happen, and so on and so forth.
So, so we have an opportunity here to kind of put everybody together under the tent and then be able to work effectively going forward to be able to pass this budget and get it done.
So,
I have full confidence that they that they're going to get it done on time.
I hope so. But they are. So this was like a big thing, big conversation is up about they're funding a lot for citrus research. Feeding Florida. Here it is. So this is educational stalemate. So a big one is controversy over education, which is one of the major sticking points between the House and the Senate, is overfunding for accelerated education programs like AP classes, things like that. AP, IB, ACE, and they want some in the chambers want to cut it by 50%. But they've heard an outcry from parents. We'll see. So the Senate is still looking to cut these fundings for the programs by 25 to 30%, which will be interesting because I wonder how that's going to put targets on any of these senators' backs in re-election time.
Right.
So that was a big one. I know that there was a big number that came out, I think 16 billion for education overall, which, we have a very robust school choice program, so funding that. Here it is. The 2025, so this was as of Monday. So obviously there were changes since then, but this gives you some harder numbers. So the 2025-6 budget would allocate nearly $50 billion. So it's $49.96 billion. 17.5 for health, 16.1 for pre-K through 12 education. So that doesn't include the higher education. And then 1.5 bill for ag. And then higher education, criminal, and civil, just over 6.5 billion each. So those are some numbers that they're kind of throwing out there. See what happens. Also, a reminder: hurricane season has started. Happy hurricane season, y'all! So there's a tax holiday right now for your hurricane supplies. Sorry, real quick. Has anybody looked at the list of names?
Yes, I did look at them.
There are some doozies on there. I am very concerned about Imelda. I just am like, first of all, eyes are never good. Irene, Ian, the eyes are usually where things are getting crazy with the storms. And I'm just like, true. I don't know. Imelda's giving me some nervous vibes. That was a big one. I was like, oh boy. So, yeah.
I did look over the list. I can't remember them off the top of my head.
Well, I just watched this Instagram reel. This guy was like describing each name as like a person, giving each one a personality.
Was A, I think.
Yeah, Andrea, I think Pablo, Sebastian, Rebecca, Imelda, Karen.
Oh crap!
Oh crap! And it's a K. H-I-I-J-K. These are when the storms are really bad. I think somebody's just drinking and like, let's throw this name on the board. Let's do Karen. We need unleash the Karen.
As long as the J is not Josie, we'll be all right.
It's not. No. I'm waiting for that day. And I'm just kidding. E is Aaron. I know there's like I know a few people. M is Melissa.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's
no. J is not Josie. I don't remember what J is. But yeah. So anyway, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, Andrea, Barry, Chantel.
Oh yeah.
Dexter.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. He was like, "Who names a hurricane after a serial killer in Florida?" Like, come on.
Dexter.
The show.
You remember Dexter?
Oh yeah,
the show Dexter.
Duh.
Aaron,
I was thinking of Dexter's Laboratory.
Fernand.
Gabrielle.
I feel like that's gonna be okay.
Humberto.
That's
yeah. And then Imelda, Jerry, Karen, Lorenzo, Melissa, Nestor, Olga.
Hey.
Olga is going to be Olga.
The only thing about Olga
Russian
is
names.
There used to be a place in Michigan called Olga's, and they have the best little
like pita
bread with like a butter. Very good.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
see, Olga's.
Pablo, Rebecca, Sebastian, Tanya, Van, and Wendy.
I don't have a good feeling about Wendy either.
What about X, Y, and Z?
They don't usually do X, Y, and Z.
They don't do those ones.
I feel like those are reserved.
Yeah, I would leave Florida for Karen when that was up.
I'm not trying to speak anything into existence. I'm just saying the names are giving me some nervous vibes. Yeah. So
some of them are kind of nice.
Stock up on some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could you imagine like a Cat 4 hurricane named Fernand?
Well, there's Fernand the Bull.
Well, that's true, I guess.
So kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. All right.
Umberto, though, I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, Barry.
Well, Dexter could also be Dexter's Laboratory.
Oh yeah, I think I go straight to Dexter
Me
the
too.
serial killer and gonna serve some body parts out in the Gulf.
That was a great show. If you
was.
Yeah.
if you didn't watch
It
it,
was
I
good.
highly recommend. If you
I don't think
wanna
I finished it. I watch it
Netflix
off and
blood.
on because after a while the blood makes me a little bloody.
Yeah, it was a good show.
And now they got a spinoff or a.
Oh yeah, I
like
think
a
they're
second-
doing like a second
either
thing
be-
with
Spinoffs
him.
are good.
It's either before or after. I
A
can't remember.
prequel.
Yeah,
I
Or
can't
sequel?
I
remember.
think it's after. I think
think
it's
it's
like
after.
he's back or something. So
Mm.
it's very interesting.
Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to derail that, but that thought popped in my head earlier today, and I was like, "This is it." Lifelong Floridian
happy
here, a little
hurricane
nervous. Yeah,
season.
happy hurricane season,
Make sure
y'all.
you get your hurricane supplies. And the city of Boca is doing extra pickups
Yes.
in June.
Yes, for tree trimming. So to
I
get your
wanna
tree
say-
trimmings done.
Delray was doing that too.
Get your tree trimming done now because they won't come for extra pickups. They might.
It's the
Just
9th and
depends.
the 14th, I think.
Yeah, so
something
extra tree
like that.
trimmings. We need to get our tree trimmings.
Yeah.
At least that's when ours is. It's like on a Tuesday.
If anybody knows anyone who
and
wants
a-
to shimmy up a tree to take down some coconuts, please let me know. Like all of our coconuts harvested.
Yeah, that's always a good idea for hurricane season. If you have a coconut tree in your yard, be sure to take your coconuts off during
Ours
this
is
time.
really tall.
Shake it. I don't know what you do. You need. They have those machines that take it and then they
Shake it and they fall on our roof and everyone wakes up. Coconut fell. Okay, sorry.
Oh my god, that's so funny. So I'll
Yeah,
kind of back to the RPOF. So
Back to the RPOF.
I was at the RPOF and attended a few committee meetings. They are really working on getting organized for 2026. I was very impressed with the committees and everything that they put together. It was, there was all the counties there were very much engaged. So there was a lot of dialogue going on. So a lot of communication, which was really good. They put together this year for this cycle a 72-hour committee, which I thought was really awesome.
What's that mean?
So that's the last 72 hours before Election Day.
Ooh.
So they are really going to push hard as far as messaging and coordinating and everything that last 72 hours. So that's when your early voting ends and then day of, that time between early voting and day of election cycle. So I think that's huge. It's a great opportunity to miss people who just haven't been paying attention or
Get those low propensity voters out on election day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really awesome. They're doing the RPOF is doing not doing away with, but they are in their initiatives aren't going to be working on the voter registration forms. They're going to try to encourage people instead of getting, if you want to do a registration initiative in your area or your community, they're suggesting that you actually you have QR codes or you're able to actually just have a mobile device to
Like a
be
tablet for people
Yeah.
to do registration online rather
Yeah.
than do.
because there were some changes with the voter registration guidelines because you have to be a third party register, you have to be able to be authorized to be able to submit those forms, and so then it just kind of, if you take the form part out of it and just have people register online, it definitely smooths the process. They can also request their vote by mail right there as well. So I was really happy to hear that because that's one reason why I personally haven't gotten involved in a voter registration initiative before now is because of the fact the forms, because then you're responsible for the forms and then there's certain date, like you only have like 5 days or 10 days or something to turn in the forms to the
Stressful.
SOE and so then it's like, and then if you lose a form, then that person doesn't get registered, there's a whole lot
it's
of
a heavy weight to bear.
yeah. So, and I think that's part of the reason why you don't see a whole lot of people out there, encouraging people to register to vote. But as far as register to vote, Republicans are down in Palm Beach County like 32,000 votes. So that's not a lot. And so we can actually, hone in on those MP MPAs that really want to be part of our primary process, and please MPAs, please register Republican so you can be part of our Republican process or our primary process, because we really need educated voters that actually vet candidates and pay attention.
Yes, please.
Because that's huge. Because a lot of people don't understand is the party does not get involved in the primary.
No, and a lot of times too. I mean, I hear people say it to me to my face like all the time. Not trying to call anyone out, but I hear all the time that they were like, "Oh, I don't vote in primaries because I'm not educated enough. I let the people who are more educated make that decision. Then I'll just vote for whoever they pick as the Republican."
Yeah,
that's how we lost. 3 Republicans lost in 2024. In a countywide race when we had 90% Republican turnout because the primaries were a crap show.
Yep, exactly. And so that's a good thing. We want the voters to pick the candidates.
Right.
You know, like that's
in the general they did, but in the primaries there was an opportunity in the primaries to maybe, I'm just going to say, pick a more winning candidate, because obviously those candidates that ran were not winning candidates because they didn't win. So maybe to pick a more winning candidate. But we only have, in primaries, 25% maybe turnout. If that. So we have 25% of the people pick the candidate for 90% of the people to then choose to vote for. And then obviously those people are not voting for that candidate because they're like, well, I don't like that candidate. Well, you need to turn out to vote for the primary. Maybe we would have had a different option and we could have taken one of those seats. I'm just saying, I don't know. Can't say that. It's just a theory on, like, if you look at the percentages and the numbers.
Right.
That's all.
And your people who are in the party, they're friends with the candidates a lot of times. So they're not vetting the candidates. They're not looking at their background. They're just saying, oh, I like you and I have a good conversation with you. I think you're the best. I think, I'm going to
get me into Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. I'm going to help. I'm going to volunteer. And then it's like, there's no, like, you're not vetting their background. You're not talking
They'll
to
even
people
say stuff that you would disagree with any other candidate. If a Democrat had said what one candidate would say, you'd be like, no way, that Democrat said blah, blah, blah. But they're like, no, it's fine because they're my preferred candidate. And so you're I don't know what it's called, normalcy bias or confirmation bias or something like that comes into play for a lot of the people who are heavily involved in the party. And it doesn't allow for a good, robust process. And so definitely encourage people to vote, participate in the primary process.
And I vet the candidates, especially if it's a race that I'm interested in and that I want to be involved in somehow. It's like I spend a couple good months vetting them and asking questions and finding out about them, before I, volunteer. And I'm just going to say it. Most of the people that I deal with in the party side of it, they don't. And it's obvious they do not vet their candidates. And that's sad. And so then, you have that majority that's not vetting candidates out there pushing people to vote for those candidates. And a lot of people just want to be told who to vote for. So
that's why they ask us for pick lists.
Yeah, so it's like they go to people that they trust, and then that person that they trust will say, "Oh yeah, I know them. They're a good guy, or they're a great person, or a nice lady, or whatever," without actually having any substance behind that. It's like, I mean, I've talked to police officers, firemen. Like, how does this person work in the county or the city, or how did you deal with them? How was their leadership? How, their family, if their family is around, like, how are you involved? I ask a lot of, questions about how they're going to behave. And the best way to do that is to talk to those people. Departments, that may work with them, because they have a county job or whatever. There's lots of ways that you can
see what boards they've served on.
Correct.
You can go back if they've served on any board in the county or the city. Those are all public record boards that have minutes, that have videos, that have whatever of their service and how they voted, what they did. So there's a lot of opportunity. And then I do think that there's a lot of like NGO organizations that do also do in candidate endorsements. So if you don't know the right questions to ask a candidate yourself, there are a lot of there's all kind. I mean, there's when you're a candidate, you literally like once a week are getting a form to fill out for either an endorsement or a questionnaire for a preferred candidate list from all sorts of organizations. Everything from way far left progressive organizations to super conservative, ultra religious organizations, and everything in between. And so all of the that's a recommendation I give to people as well is if there's an organization that you're a part of, whether it's a faith-based organization, now a lot of faith-based ones are very, if they're a 501c3, they'll be very careful. What they might do is they might say, we ask the candidate, are you pro-life or pro-abortion? And they'll say, this candidate says they are pro-life. They say this candidate says they are this. They're not picking a candidate and they're not weighing in. They're just giving you the information. So that's another way that you can find that information. Is by going to those organizations. If you're a business owner and you're part of a
good organizations too will release the questionnaires and let you read them, or at least give you synopsis of what those are.
Exactly.
Or if it's live, like Sun Sentinel will do live sometimes between two candidates.
Yep. So will the Palm Beach Post. Some will like the Boca Tribune. A lot of them will do that live. And then if you are like a business owner and you're part of a chamber of commerce, all the Chamber of Commerces will say, okay, these are the candidates that are more business friendly. So like whatever is your thing, there's going to be an organization that's going to talk to candidates and help you vet them as well. So the information is out there. You don't, I mean, I always think the best thing to do is call up the candidate, call up their campaign, say, can I meet for coffee? Can I meet you? Can I get on a phone call with you and ask you all of these questions? The higher level that you go, the harder that is, obviously. But even still, if a candidate wants your vote, they'll make the time to get your vote.
Go to their events. Have an opportunity to talk to them. If you hear that they're doing a campaign event or something somewhere, show up or host a candidate event at your local community or something like that too. There's lots of ways to get involved and making sure that that good information is getting out there. And, Josie and I, we've done, hosted debates in the past, and we definitely want to do that in the future.
We have some big plans for that coming up.
Because I think it's really important that everybody gets an opportunity to hear from candidates and be able to, even if you can't ask them a direct question, it's really just important to just kind of hear how their mannerisms are and see them in person and how they
respond to like maybe a sticky question, maybe a question about their past or a question that they don't know the answer to. Look, I don't ever expect any person running for office or any politician, anybody to have all the answers all the time. Right. But how someone answers a question when they don't know the answer to the question tells you a lot about their character as well. Yep. Because if there's a way to do like what I call like the non-answer answer that's not lying, that's not flat out, oh yeah, I know everything. No, a candidate like, honestly, I don't know that much. I will get that information for you, or that's a great question. Here's where I would look at it from. There's a lot there's a lot, and it tells you a lot about how well a person's going to handle being under fire or sitting on a dais. Yeah. And handle themselves with these types of things. And so, those are debates. So, you feel like to sponsor some of that. Shameless plug.
Please be sure to donate.
Please be sure to donate because we have a few races that we are watching. And we'll get into that in August. We're not going to talk about those right now. That's going to be a lot of our announcements in August and conversations for our August episode. We will get into it, but there are some races that we are watching that we are excited about hosting some debates in. And we could use your help for that.
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to be really important. And what you're going to see me talk about a lot and going into, the 2026 season is I'm really going to be pushing education about the primary process. I think that is just one place that if we were able to tighten up and be a little bit stronger on and just educate the public on how it works, I think we'll be way more effective when it comes to November and getting our candidates to the finish line. Yes. So
agreed.
A couple things. While we were at the RPOF, they passed a resolution to in approval of the state to exclude what's the word I'm looking for?
Archaeology?
No. No. AG.
Agriculture.
That's it. Agricultural. Sorry. Like just that word just
It went up into the pretty lights.
tangible property taxes for agricultural businesses. So is what that is it's like farm equipment. You know, they had to pay a personal property tangible tax on equipment, just like businesses do have to pay a personal property tax for their business. It's like their computers and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. You have to pay a tax on
Man,
that.
the tax government really gets you.
Yeah. So that was one thing that they were working on and removing in the budget. I haven't really seen that come across as a line item or anything like that.
I wonder if that was it. Hold on.
But the RPOF did say that they passed a resolution to give to the state legislature that they were in agreement of excluding to exclude that tax.
That makes sense based off of something else that I read. But I'm sorry, continue. I'm not.
And
I'm
then
just looking to confirm.
the other thing is there was some Rule 8 changes, meaning that counties can endorse in multi-county races like Congress.
Oh, that was heated.
That was a really heated
They
debate.
voted to do. I'm sorry. Repeat that.
Well, basically that a county party cannot endorse before qualifying.
Okay.
Before qualifying is over, and that you cannot endorse if it's a multi-county race. So if you have a state representative or a state senator,
So like CD23,
or Congress, the party cannot endorse because it overlaps with multiple counties.
Right.
So we can only endorse. So let's review for our listeners. A party can only endorse in a race that has 2 Republicans in it. So whether that be primary or nonpartisan race that has multiple Republicans, any race that has 2 Republicans, the county party cannot endorse unless it gets 65%.
It's 60%.
60%.
60% of the overall membership. It's not just quorum.
Yeah, so 60% of the membership have to vote to approve to endorse a specific candidate.
Correct.
So what you're saying is they wouldn't even be allowed to do that.
Correct.
If, like, in our district here, in District 23, which is Congressional House District 23, which overlaps into Palm Beach, into Broward County.
So that's Brian Mass's seat. That's CD23. That's Tina Polsky's Senate
CD20.
CD20.
That's like 3 counties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Brian Mass's.
Yep.
That's Brian Mass. That's the one that's 3 counties.
No, CD20 is 3 counties.
That's Sheila McCormick. Is
Oh, yeah, but Mass is 3 because I think Mass is Palm Beach
County,
Martin,
and
St. Lucie.
Is he really?
I believe so, yes.
You know what? I can
Look it up and seeing her handy dandy book. I want a binder. I'll let you look at it,
Daniel, if you're watching.
It's my binder, Daniel.
So anyway,
I'm gonna come in all official. Go with my binder.
And this again is the fact that the party is not supposed to get involved in the primary process, and so in order to kind of keep that as the norm, this is why they changed that rule.
So it was heated?
Oh, yeah. It was heated in there. It was, I mean, there were a couple counties that were like, you're taking away all of our power and, you know, all of that, you know, our endorsement power, and how are people supposed to know how we feel as a body? And I'm like, well, if you're working your precincts, they should know.
Well, so here's the thing. I see how that affects. This is good for us. It's going to be interesting how that comes across. And because I keep continuing to bring up, because it was like a crazy thing that I saw in St. Johns County during the primary, when they did have an endorsed candidate list from the party. And then there was another candidate list that was distributed not from the party, but pretended like it was from the party. And so I wonder how these types of things will influence whether or not the party can even put a candidate endorsement list out, and will that impact how is that like it actually might make it hard. I'm sorry, I'm literally verbally processing this.
Well,
thing
the
out
thing
loud.
of it is like what Palm Beach County did for municipals and last primary is they just listed who the candidates were.
Right, but they had dark money coming in and funding, or some kind of money coming in and funding opposite candidates' lists. And so if there is no published Republican list, maybe they won't be able to do an opposite candidates list.
Or they just do one and don't have any competition against it.
That's what I'm saying. It could be really bad. It could make it even worse.
I mean, this
yes,
is one
it
of
is St. Louis, Martin, and Palm Beach.
Yeah, so it's I get it, but we shouldn't be endorsing before qualifying is
That's
over
correct.
anyway. And then and the whole purpose of endorsement is to keep a bad candidate off the ballot.
Yeah.
Like for November. So that's when it should be used as an endorsement. So like, let's say you have two candidates and one is like a drug user and spousal, abuser or whatever, and just bad news. Like, that's when you want to be able to use your county party's power of endorsement. And I think it has way more power behind it because you're saying that this is the best qualified candidate that we want to put up in November, and this is why. Like, you're saying the why to your members, not necessarily to everybody, to all of the voters. But at the same time, like, if we had more of a vetting process within the party as far as like having candidate forums, having them talk for more than 3 minutes, having an opportunity for questions and answers, like putting them on a podium and say, okay, give us, 10 minutes of what you plan to do in this position. And then you have rapid fire questions from the membership, and all of that kind of gets exposed. And regardless if you like them or not, or somebody who likes them or not, you kind of see them for their true colors.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't really look under that bias lens anymore because you can't unsee what you just saw.
Yeah.
So it makes it harder to be able to support someone that maybe isn't necessarily, they may be a good person and they may mean well, but that doesn't mean that they're the best candidate to be able to put forward against Democrats in November, especially in Broward and Palm Beach County.
Yeah. And then it also, I always, and I continue to say that I would like to see in the parties, and I don't know if you can kick this can up the road up to the RPOF, but I would like to see some type of agreement from candidates before they can get any access to any of the county party resources, whether that be money, whether that be time. Obviously, the party can't compel people to volunteer. So the way that volunteers get pulled in is by the candidate getting those couple of minutes, even if it is only a couple of minutes at an REC meeting, or any of the clubs or any of that, where they say, if you don't agree to running a clean campaign, you're not going to like trash another Republican. You can point out their negatives and real negative things. Say, hey, this dude
compare and
contrast. This dude said that he likes that there was masks on people. That's something I disagree with. Not this dude is an idiot and he's like dirt and trash because he said those things. No, this is what he said. I disagree with it. This is what I would have done differently. That's different. But like to not do the mudslinging, to not run like dark like attack campaigns, to not sue people. And then if you agree to those things, you can then get access to party money if they're going to be distributing money.
I do believe that's happening in the REC. They are putting together a form.
Good.
I'm not sure what the details are on it. I actually heard it wasn't so good, but
Oh, well, their form's not good?
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know.
I'm losing my faith.
I'm just hearing both sides. I'm just hearing both sides of the argument. So, I'm hearing, like you said, like something like that would be good. It kind of tells them and kind of puts it on the line that this is what they agree to, but also at the same time is it's like we have a hard enough time finding candidates as it is, and then they don't all go through the Republican Party. But you're saying just for party resources.
I'm saying for party resources. When they come in and they use party resources, meaning that they get time or we give money, because the thing is we cannot tell people not to run. Like if someone wants to run for something, they can run, file your name, pay your money, do whatever you want. Run. It's a free country. Do it.
Right.
But if you want access to our resources, then there needs to be some like accountability to running, to not like trashing your opponent, your other Republican opponent, to having something, and not anything where we're compelling speech or we're just some simple guidelines. And I actually have a feeling I know what you're saying. They're probably going to be putting in there if you've ever supported a Democrat before, or if you've ever done this kind of. That's getting a little bit too
and I think
restrictive.
That's where it might be headed. But
I'm talking more about very specifically because here's the thing: when you start trashing your Republican opponent, guess who's watching that? The Democrat. Guess who's clipping it? The Democrat. Guess who's going to use that if your opponent wins? The Democrat. You are literally giving the enemy all of the line that they need to hang the person who wins. And like, if you anyway, I know I'm just ranting right now about it, but that's my motivation in seeing that is there's to provide some type of guideline, but that's not overly done. See, this is the problem sometimes if they over course correct. There hasn't been anything forever, so now we're going to give you 15 guidelines you have to follow. No,
correct.
2-3 simple things to just create a better general race.
It should just be something very simple of the fact that, you plan on, like you will support the other candidate at the end. Like
if they run a clean race.
Right.
I'm not going to support someone
correct.
who trash talks my name. Like
exactly.
who just like slings mud.
But then that person would have violated
exactly.
the
so there has to be a both things. I will support
correct.
We both run clean races, and I will, even if I don't publicly support, I won't work against.
Right.
I think that's more so it. Because I don't think you should be compelled to say that you publicly, like a public statement to support someone. But I think it might be, I won't actively work against that person.
Right.
There's a difference.
Right. And the thing is, Republicans, is if there's a bad candidate, the only recourse that we have is the undervote. Or we're violating our oath as Republicans if we vote for the Democrat. So, technically we're not.
That's not violating our oath. You can vote for whoever you want in the voting booth. You can't
yeah.
publicly support.
Correct.
There's a difference.
Correct.
Just saying.
But most people would also include that into the voting booth. Like you're actively working against the party by voting for a Democrat. So, and I don't want to get too much into the Republican Democrat aspects of things, but the undervote is our only is really the only recourse unless we are able to call out bad actors somehow, some way in the process. Because it's like right now it's like it's a free for all, and then it's like there could be a terrible Republican and there's no voice for people to actually amplify that or give that information. And that's why I think having candidate forums
I do agree.
in the party, so it's REC members, so it's sequestered and there should be like no cameras, no videos, things of that nature. It should just be raw experience between REC members and the candidates.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then our members walk away educated. Regardless of whether or not they ask a question or not,
they're going to get an education.
They're going to get an education. And I think that that's really important. And, I had talked about previously is, when I ran for vice chair, one of the things that I wanted to check into, like we can't do, part of Rule 8.2 is you can't do straw polls. You can't do straw polls.
Thank God.
Right. So not a straw poll, but a rating system. Like we should be able to rate the candidates as members, and then therefore that information then is given to the candidate, and they can say yes, they got REC member, the majority of REC member support, or they didn't, and then that gives the candidate an opportunity to look in the mirror and say, okay, I didn't get the support here. I need to either up my game and I need to make changes to be able to get more support, or you know what, they got, they have way more support than me. They, so maybe
I'll bow out. It's
maybe
not my
this
time.
Is not the right. Maybe this
Save
is
us
not
all
the right
a lot of
race
money.
for me.
A lot of money
and a lot of problems. Infighting. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. So so that was very interesting. They also changed chartered clubs, how that they can get dissolved. And prevent and it prevents chartered clubs from having a pick list for primaries, which is good. So your Republican clubs can't come out and say, like these are our preferred candidates. They have to, if they are a chartered Republican club, they have to stay neutral.
Did they make any rules about if you were a member of a non-chartered club that you can't be in the REC anymore?
That really wasn't discussed, and I didn't see any, like I'm in the audience, so I don't get to see the paperwork, and I didn't get to actually see what the what the vote was to be on, but there was a lot of talk and a lot of back and forth about because chartered clubs are approved by your state committee man, your state committee woman, and your chair of your county, and so they all have to be. 2 of the 3 have to be in agreement. So whether it's to, approve a charter or to dissolve a charter or whatever. So they were really trying to push it there. Michelle Merrill of Broward was really trying to say like it should be 3 of 3. So then that way, if you do have a divided board or, like you have your state committee man and woman that are, RPOF basically and have all of that additional information, and then you have a chair that doesn't really know and his friend wants to start a club, basically he just needs to get one of them to vote, for them. So it could cause some cherry picking. So that was a concern, or like I said, to dissolve a club, so if like they are in violation or whatever, then they can put that, and then I believe that goes to, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe then that goes to the RPOF, that then they, get the information, and then, okay, this was voted 2 to 3, this club is dissolved for this reason or whatever, and then they get an official notice. So very interesting stuff.
Interesting.
I definitely, get involved. They're not televised or anything like that. You actually have to
show up.
You can't just show up. You actually have to be a registered guest from an RPOF member.
Oh, it's the RPOF meetings.
Yeah. So, but highly recommend if you are, if you know somebody that's in the RPOF, and I think they're each allowed three guest tickets if I'm not mistaken. You do have to pay to you still have to pay to attend because, they do provide coffee in the meeting rooms and all of that kind of stuff. So, but
breakfast on Saturday.
Yes, and Stu and I had a great time. Had a blast with everybody. Just kind of talking with other people and other counties and realizing that we're not just crazy here in Palm Beach County. It's crazy everywhere.
Crazy ones.
Is there crazy?
Oh,
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to sit around and listen to the crazy.
So it's really interesting because it's like, oh, is this something that's going on? Oh yeah, we deal with that all the time. Or
really, it makes us feel less lonely down here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah,
No.
so I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes me feel a little bit better. We're not so alone.
A lot of craziness in St. Johns County.
Yes. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, that was one that the chair, was it the previous chair or the chair now? I think he got reelected.
Yeah, he was the guy that was in that one meeting. Yes.
Yeah. So, but that county, so he got elected, and then the previous chair locked him out of everything, passwords.
I remember that.
I think keys to office. They just basically didn't give him anything, nothing.
And that's when that was at the big meeting down in Fort Lauderdale, and that's when he passed the motion or passed the thing that to have the RPOF monitor
hold all the passwords and stuff,
all the
emails. And then what's really cool is they're
Did they say why?
No,
he just didn't like that he lost.
Yeah, he didn't like that he lost.
Either that he lost or that the person that he was backing didn't win.
St. Johns County, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah, so it's
crazy
really
up there.
And then they are rolling out a whole RPOF platform that is even going to work down into the precinct level, where you're going to have your own website, so you can give people your information as a precinct committee man or woman, and then you can put newsletters on there. People can sign up. You can communicate with people through there, and then it works on its way up, all the way up through the RPOF. So and then it will it can integrate with WebElect is hopefully what they're is what they're hoping to be able to do. So then the precinct committee men and women will have access to that. So they're working on a lot of things to be able to streamline it so that we can actually have the tools needed
to work correct. I've always been like, well, what do I do?
It's funny
Nobody's
how,
home.
Nobody's home. I gotta go knock on doors. It's 1,000 degrees outside. Can I send an email? Oh, here's like 16 hoops you have to jump through to get your email list.
Yeah. And then, they're talking about, having it where you could be able to text possibly with low fees. And so, or have a call list or whatever. So that's in the works. They've already starting to kind of like, I don't know if beta testing is quite the right word for it yet, but they are working on it.
See, that kind of stuff makes me want to stay in the REC.
Aren't they also working on like, okay, this person here is already, you've already visited them and stuff like that. It's
like a tracking.
Like a
does.
customer service management system.
CRM, yeah. I love my CRMs.
It's very interesting as a non RPOF member to go to that meeting and just learn stuff, and it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like you
Kinda
start
very
to,
interesting.
everybody. What happens is the state party. What's the state party doing? I don't understand. What's this? What's that? And it's like, well, if you went to the meetings and you understood or talked to your state committee man and woman,
I mean, they're
you know that
accessible. We've had Joe on. We're
Yeah.
trying to get Jody. Come on, Jody.
And not just bash
Try to get her on. Well,
not
Jody,
just
can you come on the
bash
podcast?
them and
No,
say
I'm
they're doing
busy.
She's
anything.
in Tallahassee.
I'm Tallahassee.
That's
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time, Jody. Please come on our podcast.
not to just bash them and say, oh, they're not doing anything. Well, how do you know what they're doing? Because you're not even going to the meetings. You're not.
That's
even
everyone's favorite
seeing
term.
them.
They're not doing anything.
Right. And it's not, I mean, there's so many committees, right? So then if you're a state committee man, a state committee woman, or a chair, you can be on the committees. So, like I said, there's the 72-hour committee, there's election integrity committee.
It's like a whole nother world.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it
This is
called
the
the
next
election-
layer. Like you said, it's like
called
the next
election
doll.
Yeah.
Integrity committee still, or is that something different?
It's election integrity, but I mean they have different committees that
Right.
sprawl off
Communities.
of that. Yeah, communities basically. Our state committee woman Jody, she's actually the Jewish Coalition Committee
Yeah,
chair.
she just created it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on it.
Oh, that's awesome. So, so there's that. So, so
Darn it.
So that's just really cool
kidding.
is that there's lots of opportunities to get involved. It's just that they're not standing out there with an amplifier saying, do you want to get involved? Do you want to get involved? Do you want to get involved today? They're not.
How about today?
Yeah, they're not doing that. Like
you have to do it.
You have to
Get
take
off
the
your tush.
initiatives. You have to take the initiatives. So Janine joins us in the chat. So hi, Janine.
Hi, Janine.
So, yes, the 72-hour committee is the 72 hours from the end of early voting to election day. So they created a special committee within the RPOF to handle those 72 hours with messaging and really getting a big push for the last push of election day of people who have not voted yet. So that was really exciting, and we should probably echo that here locally as well on a county level.
Somebody call the chair.
Yeah, I don't want to head it.
So-
No, I'm not
So
heading
they-
anything
I'm not
else.
doing-
Do not ask me to be on any more boards.
So question.
No more boards.
Question on that 72 hours. Is that election day, the Monday, and the Sunday?
Right.
Okay.
So the last day of early voting.
No, the day after early voting
No, because
ends.
then that's not.
That's
not
3 days.
72 hours.
So 72 hours
got
would be the
3
last day of
hours.
early
Okay,
voting.
yeah.
Not that one quiet day
Monday.
that everyone holds their breath and runs around like a crazy chicken with their head cut off. Getting signs ready. We all know
Yeah,
what
you're
that
right.
day's like. And then election
I was
day.
thinking 36, but you're right. 72 would be the last day of early voting.
24.
So, like, if you
36,
missed early
40.
voting
It'd be
today,
Saturday.
No, 32 or 30,
24,
48,
48,
72.
72.
anyway, it's that weekend before election. It's that 72 hours
So,
before
yeah.
election day.
It's kind of how they did it was kind of. But it's
It was cool.
Basically, it's to push the votes, push
Yeah.
stuff out.
It's
to people.
basically that's when you should be looking, like all counties, all not municipalities, all like
Precincts.
precincts should be looking at who hadn't voted up until that point.
Yeah.
So
Pulling the data.
So looking at that data after early voting closes, who has not voted and who can we reach out to get to the ballot box on Tuesday?
Yeah.
That's what it's designed for. So whether that's marketing, whether that's making sure they get something in their mail on Saturday, if that's
Sending
or Monday.
Rides, arranging. That needs to be a big one. That's what the Democrats do. They just load everyone up on a bus and drop them off.
Souls to the polls.
And they have a party.
They don't only do
barbecue.
that for polls. They do that for their rallies, too. So
yeah, that's true. They bus everybody in. You want to go, you get. The thing of it is if you want to go to anything that, like, they feed you and they provide transportation for a lot of Democrat things.
Yes, we just need to get people to the polls.
And we're not going to bribe you. We just want you to vote.
We'll help you get there to vote. But we're not going to bribe you with food.
Yeah.
We'll just help you get there.
We just want you to do your due diligence and do your own self-governance like you're supposed to, because that's your civic duty. But,
no biggie.
No biggie. We don't,
No pressure.
We're not going to give you bagels
as my kids would say.
And, water bottles, like, okay, whatever.
Bag of chips.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the RPOF was
communities.
The RPOF was really cool.
Sorry, Jessica's trying to herding cats tonight.
So they had a
stay on track, Jessica.
They had a chairman.
Sorry.
She's gonna start bashing heads pretty soon.
So they had a chairman's ball, not a ball, like a cocktail hour, like where they had where the band and stuff was.
Yeah, the chairman's dinner or chairman's.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing like everyone in a big poofy ball again.
No,
Yeah.
no. There was guys in shorts, and it was really not.
So it's like just they have a band and they
they call it the chairman's get together or something like that.
It's always gonna be the chairman's ball in my mind now from ever. And always big giant ball gowns.
Sorry.
Tuxes.
So anyway, it was a great event, but they had a band that was made up of people who were in the legislature or had been part of the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. House of Rock was what it was called.
Yes.
They were amazing.
Were people dancing?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We had
people dance? Well, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of Latin, so I'm sure there was
all older people dancing because it was all 80s music, but hey.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. So, House of Rock, it was really cool.
Are they on Spotify? Because I
don't
might need to
know.
listen to this.
I don't know. But maybe I'll do some research and see if I can find it. But yeah, so the band was called House of Rock, and I mean they were amazing. I mean they did just such a great job. So
that's what they're doing instead of passing a budget. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, it wasn't them. It was like staffers and like that kind of stuff.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
There was one that
I got
actually
jokes.
He wasn't a representative anymore, but he had. Been
he used to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was. He was a representative.
No, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Do they play at all of them?
I don't know.
They didn't play at the one down here because that was a different band, but I don't know if they played. We'll have to find out the next time.
I don't know, but everybody loved him, so I doubt very much that they wouldn't use him. I there's no reason why they wouldn't use him again. I wouldn't think so. So advocate for Evan Power to make sure that he brings back House of Rock.
House of Rock.
Yes, that was fun.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So. That's my RPOF news. We can switch to local if you're ready.
I am ready. I don't have anything to add to the RPOF because I did not go to the RPOF meeting. So thank you, though, for the update. I appreciate it. I know I'm making a lot of jokes, but I really am. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of good information.
Yeah, and then the next one, they're having a Florida Freedom Fest. It's August 1st and 2nd, and that's in Orlando, too.
Ooh.
So if you're interested in attending that, the information was on The Wire. So if you're subscribed to the REC The Wire, you will see that information in the flyer.
Wire.
And so Palm Beach County.
Let's talk Palm Beach County.
Palm Beach County had a commission meeting yesterday. It was like 8 hours.
You mean Tuesday?
Or Tuesday. God, yeah, Tuesday. It was Tuesday.
Yeah, we watched the last.
I watched it yesterday.
Okay.
And so it was like... Oh, God, it was like 7-8 hours. It was a long one.
Spicy.
Yeah. So very interesting. So they did say Todd Badlaren was I think I mentioned this last time. He is the interim administrator.
Yes, because they couldn't put an interim administrator who is a candidate to become administrator. They didn't want to do that. So he's not a candidate to become the county administrator. So they picked him to be the interim because the other two big county administrators on that team, like not the county administrator, but on that team, are both in the running for.
Yes, they are equal to Todd in the county administration. So
and they're in the running to become the county
Correct.
administrator.
Correct. And so that's been a very interesting process. I hope that everybody is paying attention because this is a big deal. This is the CEO of our county
$9 billion budget.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very interesting. So anyway, Todd is now the the interim administrator. He did a great job for the meeting, and he did bring up that next meeting, which I should have pulled up those dates, I'm sorry, but the next meeting at the county commission, they are going to be bringing an update on how they're gonna do the fluoride removal, and then I'm very curious about. I think the next step needs to be chlorine.
Yes.
There's many cities right now that are doing a chlorine flush.
Yep.
And that's a toxic chemical too. So even though we have it in our pools and all of that kind of stuff, this is your drinking water that the chlorine is being flushed through. So
there's the same amount of chlorine in our drinking water as there is in your pool.
Right, exactly. So it's very interesting so be on the lookout and maybe pay attention for that next one because people who were we had lots of listeners wanting to know about the fluoride stuff. So that's going to be rolled out in the next county commission meeting of how I'm assuming how they're going to roll back and take out the fluoride.
Yeah, because it's a process because it's in the water supply already, so it has to be. Like they're gonna stop adding it in, I'm guessing, and then it's gonna be how they're gonna test it to make sure it's getting flushed out of the water system.
Correct. So if you're on that bandwagon, I would really hope that you jump on the chlorine bandwagon too. So again, we're the administrative candidates, like Josie said, there's a couple of the administrators that are going for getting the county administrator position. 2 more candidates dropped out. I think last time I told you that there were 7. There are now 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
We're now down to 4.
Yep. Who is it?
So we have Asimia Yala Colazo, we have Joseph Abruzio, Patrick Rudder, and Keith Clickensales. All of their information, their resumes, and their cover letter is listed online on the county website. So if you are interested in who those are and what they do and all of that kind of stuff, you'll be able to see that right on the website. June 17th is going to be a community event in the evening. They haven't released where that is, and I think it's going to start at like 6. I want to say like 6. They didn't
5.
for 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that.
I think there was a meet and greet at 5 to 5:30 or something
for
like
the
that.
administrators.
That was kind of it wasn't tabled, but it was a kind of a work in progress because they were going to have it on the 6th floor atrium, but it was concerned of like if there's a lot of people that show up and want to be able to attend and talk to these, these candidates for this position, it was suggested, like, why don't we do the convention center? Like, we own the convention center.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it at the convention center? So they, there were a few people that like the costs and all of that kind of stuff, but it's like parking and they're going to wait, if they do it there, they may waive parking. And so anybody can be able to attend from the community or from the county, actually. And so they're going to have kind of, a forum where they're going to have, you can ask them questions and all of that kind of stuff. They're working on how to get questions ahead of time. So if there are some people that can't travel to West Palm Beach to attend the event, that they would be able to submit their questions and stuff ahead of time. They will be starting with the county commissioners that morning at 9:30 a.m. and then
8:30.
9:30. And because it's now only 4.
Right, but they still have to go 7 hours.
They have to go 7 hours?
Yes.
Why?
Because there's 7 commissioners, and each one's got to meet with each one of them.
Wait. They're meeting with the commissioners individually?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
I
So-
thought you meant in a meeting.
8:30, 9:30, 10:30.
So-
Okay, so it doesn't affect our people's thing. I thought it was
No.
like a public meeting.
No.
Okay,
So they'll be meeting in the commissioner's offices and having a one-on-one interview with each commissioner beforehand, and then they're going to be going to this community event. So
that's exhausting.
which is perfect, which
Yes.
is exactly what they need.
Yes, because it's an exhausting job.
I'm like, give them more. Like, they need to be able to understand what, the fire alarm means, and making sure that they're able to.
for when
to
Karen
handle-
comes. And I'm just kidding.
When Karen comes.
Sorry.
When Karen comes.
So,
Sorry, Karens.
But the way that it was discussed, I will say, I think it was a little biased, in my personal opinion, for Joseph Abruzio. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, he's the heavy favorite.
Because he's the polished politician.
Yeah.
He'll be the one that's good on his feet. And Simi is amazing. She is an amazing assistant administrator, and she is on top of her job, and she can pull up things like nobody's business. And Patrick too, like, he is very no nonsense. These both of these have long-standing history within the county, from planning and zoning. Simi did facilities and all of that kind of stuff. So when you're catering to the polished politician, Simi and Patrick may feel like a little bit like a fish out of water.
But the thing is, it's not.
But at the same time, it's like you kind of have to be ready. You have to be kind of on your game. So how are they going to handle that?
That's true.
And if Abruzzo is able to kind of step it up and show his strengths, it may help him. It may be.
I'm
able
curious
to
what
help him go forward.
the fourth one might just come out and just be like, shabam.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Well, they've all worked in the county in some way or another, or currently work in the county. So it's very interesting. And then Abruzzo gets this position, then
Special election.
Then we have a special election for the clerk and comptroller. So this is another thing to just kind of pay attention to, because we're gonna, it is a very good possibility.
That's going to be a very expensive special election.
Yeah,
because that's
it's
countywide, and that means we don't have to have early voting. I think I feel like I said this in the last episode. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. But still, it's still going to be an expensive one.
Yeah. And so again, like I said, it's just interesting how it's all, kind of coming together. They did do a contract for Todd Bonlaren. They did approve a contract on this last meeting. So that he did get a little pay raise bump, $355,000, I think, for that's prorated for the time he steps in as interim. So not as much as, so we save money.
Yay. And then I also, did you see this, that there is a position open?
Yes,
for the legislative director. Did she leave?
No. Casey actually posted, like, come work with me.
Oh, so it's like needing another
one.
I'm
wondering if it's Ed, but I haven't found out. Ed Chase was the other legislative director. So it's a great pay. You do have to have good experience or the legal degree or the appropriate degrees to be able to get that
like
position.
Political science degree.
Yeah. So or a high school diploma or equivalent with 7 years of legislative experience.
Yes.
So, which is good. So they're not catering to a degree, but they want to make sure that you have good legislative.
You know what you're talking about when you're talking about legislative crap.
Exactly. So that's something.
Stuff.
So that's something to hold on to too. And that's a big position.
It's an important position.
Yeah, that's the one that's advocating for all of those things between the county to the state
and the federal government.
Exactly. So very interesting. So
you have to be able to schmooze and know all the players and be able to present and be able to take the information. They need to be able to bring accurate information back to the commissioners about what's going on, and then be able to take what the commissioners direct them to do and be able to translate that and put that forward to legislators and their offices and lobbyists. They're basically lobbyists.
Yeah, they're the lobbyists for the
county.
Yeah.
So
and they, they talk with the senators and the representatives and the bills that they're on and why does it work for Palm Beach County and why does it not work for Palm Beach County. They work to try to get co-sponsors on a bill that's going to help the county, all of that kind of stuff. So that's really what Palm Beach County Days is about, but they do it all year, they do it kind of all year long. And I'm a big fan of Casey Denny. I think she does a great job. I think she advocates for us very well, and she takes direction from the board very well. She doesn't go off on her own. She's very, they set the strategic plan for the county, and she sticks to it. She
executes it. Yeah.
Yeah. So not that I agree with everything that's on it, but she
does her job. So again,
very well.
We can be upset and annoyed and frustrated at people like the county administrator or whoever for things, but ultimately the responsibility lies in the electeds.
Yes.
And we need to hold them accountable for how they direct or don't direct. Yeah, like in the case of COVID. I'm going to give a little throwback there, how they direct or don't direct and force county administration to step in and take on a role that they should have never had.
Yes.
Because they abdicated their authority.
Correct. So
anyway,
that wraps up the administrator part. The county attorney had her review on the dais during this committee
Who's the county attorney
as well.
Now?
Denise.
Oh yeah, Denise.
Oh, I can't think of her last name right at the moment. So her feedback was mostly positive. However, the commissioners were very honest with her and said, look, you're not doing very well in communication to our offices. We're getting emails, but no personal one-on-ones. And we want to be able to talk to you and ask you questions and have follow-up on statuses and being more settlements brought to the dais. And then also having stronger guidance to the commissioners, where it's like making sure that they don't get into legal trouble, so pushing back on the commissioners, whether it's on the dais or in their offices or whatever, of like, this is where you're going to get into trouble. This is how, this is why, and be able to be more clear in the communication with the commissioners so that they feel that they're protected by the county attorney.
Yes.
So that was very good. They were also supposed to do the internal auditor review as well. He didn't show. They were furious.
Oh, yeah.
I shouldn't say that. I don't want to say that he didn't show. He was not there. His presence was not there. I don't know if
Did he know he was supposed to be there?
I don't know if that was communicated to him or not, or if he just kind of thought like, oh, well, they're just going to review me. I shouldn't be there while I'm being reviewed. But so they actually voted to hold back that review until he was present. So that's going to be very interesting. So I'm not sure when that's going to come.
Be spicy
that's
when he shows
come
up
again.
He's going to get yelled
but
at.
From the comments from the commissioners is that there has not been a lot of communication from his office. There has not been updates. And I know when I was in the county commission at the end of 2023, it would have been, he was just hired. And he said, please give me a year to be able to go through everything that's going on in the county and be able to find redundancies and ways that we can be more efficient and so on and so forth. So the commissioners were like, okay, you just got into this position. You're brand new hire. We will give you the time that's needed. But these are the things that we kind of want you to work on and be aware of. And so I believe it's only four people that's actually under the direction of the commission, which I think is the attorney, the administrator, the internal auditor, and I think there's one more.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the flow chart.
Is it just 3?
I have to look at the flow chart.
Yeah.
So those are the ones that report directly to the county commissioners, so they can hire or fire based on, a majority of the votes. So, they all expressed that there were problems because the budget keeps increasing and nobody's looking at where there's waste, fraud, and abuse and all of that kind of stuff. So your county commissioners were making it very clear to the internal auditor that he was going to be given the time to be able to do these things, and then he doesn't show up for his county review. So that's going to be very interesting on how that goes. That's going to be a spicy
meeting. Pop some popcorn.
Spicy meeting. So that was very so just be prepared for that. And that
also, that puts to rest, because there's a lot of people who I see all over, different groups and chats and stuff that I'm in, where they're like, how come nobody's auditing? We need an audit, we need an audit, and we need an audit, we need an audit. We're having this budget increase, and obviously we're all concerned about the budget increases. I mean, yes, inflation, there's many reasons for budget increases, but yes, audits need to happen. So here the county's trying to do an audit. The commissioners are trying to do it, and it's not working.
Right.
They're trying.
Right.
They need to fire and as most people should know, things move very slowly in government.
I'm going to be talking about that in a minute.
Slowly.
So slow. Like 40 years slow.
Like the snails.
Oh, yeah, like the snails. Slowly. Sorry.
So, and then it was brought up that because of the to comply with President Trump's executive order to remove DEI practices within the county, that was brought up because staff wanted to change a couple things to be in accordance with the executive order. So it was discussed on the dais. I was actually embarrassed to be a Palm Beach County resident during this whole talk because it was just absolutely disgusting. You had Commissioner Flores, you had Commissioner Powell, and you had Commissioner Weiss basically saying that Palm Beach County is racist, and the only reason why we're not racist is because of DEI in our county. And I was offended. Because it was very clear, I believe it was Commissioner Baxter said that this is just basically having us go back to a merit-based system, and making sure that we award vendors and contractors and everything based on merit, and not necessarily where they fit into this DEI point system, which is like if you're a minority-based business, you get an extra point. If you're a woman's-based business, you get an extra point.
And if you're a minority woman's-based business, you get an extra point.
Yeah.
It is cuckoo bananas. And by the way, every single contract that is awarded in when you look at the agenda, it'll say in there where this person who's potentially this company is getting awarded, or the contract that's up for a vote or whatever, where they fall in this category, which percentage and how many percentage.
And if they have higher points on the DEI scale, I'm just going to call it that because there's lack of a better word, but it's like on the DEI scale, the higher the points, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are presenting the lower price.
Mm-mm.
And so that's what I think a lot of what Palm Beach County residents don't understand is it doesn't mean that you're getting the best price when you
or the best person for the job
or the best person, because they're clicking all of these boxes. And so if you're just a white Caucasian, business person that
male business owner, you're screwed.
That provides a service, they make it practically impossible that you're going to be awarded positions with
contracts
with the government or with the county government. So it's like and then these three commissioners, Flores, Powell, and Weiss, all spoke about how they didn't want to vote for this, that they're ashamed that they have to vote okay for this because of the fact that, they're basically being threatened by the federal government that Palm Beach County is going to lose $300 million in grant funding if they don't comply with the executive order. My thought process is it lowers the budget.
It's true.
But again, this is $300 million that goes through the budget that comes from the federal taxpayer. Mm-hmm. So, or from the federal government through taxpayers.
We should get because we are a donor county.
Right. And so it was this whole thing, I mean, I highly recommend to go and watch just
no wonder it was an 8-hour meeting.
This little section, because I was embarrassed for these commissioners that they put the color of skin and minorities and sex and gender and all of that in front of a merit-based, low taxpayer system. Like, we should get the best price with the best person to do the best job possible, and they turned it into nonsense.
That we're all racist.
Yeah, and that we wouldn't have this if we weren't, because the disparity study that came out like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, said that we had biased.
That's why we have the Office of the Equal Business Opportunity,
Correct.
Employment Opportunity,
so all
blah, blah,
that
blah.
they wanted to do, and then it was to do away with the DEI office. We had a DEI office, but it wasn't staffed.
What?
It wasn't staffed. We didn't actually do anything with it. We
So
just
we had
established the office.
There's like a room and like there's a room like in the broom closet that says DEI on it. I can just picture it now.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, what? So basically the staff was just like, yeah, so we're just going to
Take this out.
We're just not going to have that department or that office anymore. And then the what was the one that you just mentioned, the EBO?
The Equal Business Opportunity Board.
Yeah. So the EBO, who spends, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through these applications and fill out these, goes and does like meetings with business people of how to do these businesses and, or how to get government contracts and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't defund that. It just kind of makes it where all of those little check boxes just go away.
Oh, no.
And it's kind of like, what Joel Flores said was terrible, was absolutely terrible. He said that if everything was merit based, I would have gotten every job and everything that I ever applied for, because I have all of these degrees, and I was in the he was in the army or the military or whatever, and I was just like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Talked about how he had to stand in front of a mirror when he was like 10 years old and practice his words so that he could lose his accent. And it was all because we didn't have DEI type programs, was why he had to do that.
Yeah, because every immigrant who's ever come here has never been able to succeed because they had an accent. That's so insulting. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. Okay,
I was insulted.
I'm on this thing right now because I'm looking. I heard this. I'm sorry. I'm going to derail for just a split second, if that's okay. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege. So we were out at dinner a few weeks ago, and there was this table behind us of these like young people, probably like in their early 20s. And a woman, we were sitting outside on the patio, and a woman walked by holding a baby, and the baby was crying. And she's comforting her baby, and she walks by, and she goes, and this girl sitting at the table behind me goes, "Ugh, babies, I do not want a baby. You don't even hand me that thing," and da-da-da-da-da-da. And she's just going on and on about how much she didn't want kids. I took everything. We were with my in-laws, so I didn't want to embarrass them. But if it would have been just me and my family, I wanted to turn around to her and say, how dare you spit on the face of your ancestors wherever they were, whatever they did to survive whatever was given to them, because we live in the most amazing, easiest time to be alive ever in the history of the world. And her ancestors, wherever they came from, did not have that privilege. They had to toil and work, and probably were maybe enslaved, and I'm not talking about just black people, I'm talking about everybody has gone through slavery. Most people they were Irish slaves. There are all kinds of slaves that have gone through slavery, have gone through immigration, have gone through wars, have gone through, who knows, serfdom. So many things for her to be able to have the privilege to sit in the freest country in the history of the world and run her mouth and say she's going to spit on their face and not continue her line to honor her ancestors. I was just appalled. And so I'm in this world that I'm in right now, not that I'm in, but I'm just like, how can we and so when I hear him say something like that, it's spitting in the face of the people who have worked really, really hard, not in the face of real discrimination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you hear what happened in New York to people I'm not going to play the victim card of the Jews, but literally not allowed to do anything. Said no. The reason the Jewish people became the bankers and became these in Hollywood. Hollywood was built because the Jewish people were not allowed to participate in the trade unions. They couldn't get jobs. And so they're like, all right, we'll make up our own trade. We're going to send people to the stage. because they got creative and they were like, I mean, he lives in a world where we don't, I'm sorry, and I'm not going to ever say what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes, but in this day and age that we live in, and he's not much, I think he's my age.
Yeah, he's young.
He's my, no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, no.
Like
I don't buy it. Bullshit.
Like I said, I was so.
Had to get I'm sorry, I had to rant that out for a minute.
You should have heard me on the TV, like watching it. I was just like, oh my God, this is not happening. And Commissioner Baxter said something about like, in the words of Martin Luther King, that this should be based on the content of their character. And Commissioner Powell basically said, how dare you
quote Martin Luther King?
When you don't know him, you don't know what he was about, you have no idea.
Because she's not black?
Yep. How dare
she
you?
Can't study history?
How dare you? Was basically what, and I was just like, this is freaking insane. And then you had Commissioner Weiss that basically saying, well, our disparage studies proved that we were racist and that we didn't, that we discriminated. So, we need to make sure that this doesn't happen. And, I'm going to vote for this because I don't want to lose $300 million, but I don't want to vote for it. And this is somebody who's running for West Palm Beach mayor. That's who you want? Like, that's the communication that's coming from? Instead of like, okay, why did Trump do this executive order and how is this hurting our county?
How is it hurting our people?
And how can we improve on this and make sure that we have a good merit-based system that keeps our county running and having it effective? And so I was very frustrated. I was very upset by it. I highly encourage you to watch that meeting. And then, I again, county government, Josie mentions, like, county government runs really slow. So it's like there's all of these things that are going on right now. And this is what, I bet you they spent 45 minutes on this topic.
They like to hear themselves talk.
Exactly. And that's what it was. It was each one of them on their little soapbox saying how they hated it, but they were going to vote for it because they didn't want to see this crucial funding, federal funding, these dollars, go away from Palm Beach County. And then that was all. It was just really frustrating. And so
everyone should watch the meeting and be frustrated with us. Not just kidding.
Because it's like this is what they choose to do with their time instead of making sure that we have good things going on in the county. And I'm this board is very frustrating right now, and thankfully, Sachs didn't chime in too much. She kind of stayed pretty neutral about it. The Republican commissioners were just basically, this is what, this sounds good. This is good. This is good. Let's sign this. Let's move on. But the Democrats were like, no, we're gonna
throw a hissy fit.
We're basically gonna tell Trump that he's a piece of crap without actually coming out and saying you're a piece of crap. And so they just did it on our county dais, on our county dime, wasting our time, taxpaying whatever. So during public comment, it was brought up about Milani Park again. Anybody who's following that information, the commission had a whole argument or discussion. I don't know, maybe argument's not the right word, but a heated discussion about Milani Park, and they are actually looking to bring it back and may squash the whole deal altogether.
How much of money have we spent on this?
Hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million by this point. That happened over the course of 30 to 40 years. And what happened is during this time when this whole conversation was going on, I had a huge light bulb moment. And I was like, oh my God, this happened 30, 40 years ago. The county was, purchased this property from the Milanis. It was supposed to be turned into a park. The county didn't have the funds, so they had to build it into their plan, into their, 5-year plan or whatever. And then they had so many times that they could delay the process. And so that clock ran out. And so something had to be done. Development had to start. The process of the design phase, all of that kind of stuff had to start. And then I'm like, here's a current county commission. 2 of the commissioners just got elected in November. And I'm like, they want to just, I don't know why we're doing this. Nobody wants this park. So it's like, what about the taxpayer money that was put into this based on previous commission that wanted to have this done because it fulfilled a need within the county? Because this is a county park, not a municipal park.
Right. And so this, to kind of refresh the memory, I know we've talked about this before, but this is at where Highland Beach meets Boca.
Yep.
Right at the top of Boca, right at where Highland Beach is there's a little strip of land there that has bones, like Indian bones. Like it's actually like got like some historical significance there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to, so what the design of the park and beach access. And so currently in the South County, south of Delray, I don't even think Delray up to Boynton, all of the beaches except for one in the Tri-City area are municipal beaches.
Correct.
And the county, so therefore, if you live in the western part of the county, you have to pay money to the city. So like Delray and Boynton have beach access with like metered parking and stuff like that. But if you live in West Boca and you want to go to the beach in East Boca, you have to pay a lot of money. It's like $50 a day to go to the beach in East Boca. And so the South Inlet Park, which is the only beach in Boca, the only beach in the Tri-City area that is a county-run park, you still have to pay the metered parking, but it's much less expensive, much more access, much better access if you are not a Boca resident or a Greater Beaches and Parks resident. Anyway, so the idea is that it gives access point for residents, Western residents, to have access to our beaches in Palm Beach County.
Which is like going to be like $4 an hour or something.
So, affordable access to the beach. And they don't like that.
Yeah.
That's what, like, the Commissioner Woodward is like, let's give people beach access. This is the beaches. Like, this is what we're supposed to do. With it'll preserve the Indian bones.
She actually said on the dais, she goes, I'm not doing this for my constituents. My constituents have beach access. They live on the beach. They have city access to the park or to the beaches. This is for Western constituents that don't want to pay, that can't pay $50 a day to park at a park or, or deal with the
or drive all the way up to Boynton or north of Boynton or Delray or whatever it may be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a very interesting conversation. So it's going to be interesting how they bring that conversation back. And again, like I said, it's like, okay, this is why our budget is so large, because we do things like this. It takes government years to be able to plan and to develop and to make something that then the current,
you get a commissioner on there who has no idea what's going on, doesn't care, not in his backyard, just hears people say I don't want it because the residents of Highland Beach don't want the riffraff from Boca or the western part of the county to come to their beaches. That's why they don't want it. They would rather have everyone's yelling and screaming, no development, green space, green space, green space. Literally, the county's like, here's some green space. And they're like, no, we want a building.
Yeah. Because if this park doesn't get built, then that's what it's going to turn into.
Because the county has to sell it. We cannot keep just paying for upkeep on an empty lot.
Now on Highland Beach's point, which I get, because Federal Highway is a very busy, road. You have to cross the street. So it's like
A1A. It's not federal.
Or yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Everyone in Boca does that. I'm sorry. No, you put a little flag up. You put the button. Listen, I did it with toddlers.
So they're saying with 100 cars coming in there that it could cause, but it is supposed to have like a walkway and everything.
How many cars? How many parking spots are at Red Reef Park?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, so if you, I'm going to go check that next time I'm there. So Red Reef Park is a park in Boca that you can do on the beach side of the A1A. You have to have a beach pass or pay the $50, or across the street, across A1A, there's a public access parking lot. That is a metered parking lot, and you don't have to have a beach pass, and people walk across it all the time. There's got to be at least 50 cars there, at least.
Yeah, at least. It tells me what the fees are, but 92 spots.
There we go. It's been done. It works fine. You put the button, you push the button. It just creates one. It's not convenient if you're driving on A1A, but guess what? That's what A1A is.
I'm just saying what Highland Beach's argument is.
I understand, but I can poke holes in it all day long. Just like I can poke holes in the fact that in the argument for the thing in the city of Boca and the 12th and Palmetto, where they want to build 48 townhomes in a tiny little 2-acre square lot, where they're saying it's never been platted.
Yeah.
It's never been platted. No, it has not. But it also was not zoned.
Right.
So it's not an argument. Just like 100 spaces. It's not an argument.
Yeah.
It's a reason, but it's not an argument.
Right. And so, so this is how, like county commission works, like something that's been done that it's like you think is done. Okay, we're moving to the next phase. It's like a commissioner can basically say, well, since you're here for, because it was Milani's son that came during public comment and basically talked about it. And then Commissioner Flores brought it up and says, I want this brought back to the board.
Okay, I have a question. What was Milani's issue? What does he want done with the property?
Well, he discussed that he wanted the reduction in parking. So Commissioner Woodward was like, well, we're going to do phased. It was approved for 100 parking spots. She's like, but we're going to do phased parking. We're going to start with 25 spaces and then over a period of time, and we'll build up to 100 spaces. But they can't just do away with. So he's like, well, I'm okay with just 25 spaces, period. And she's like, well, we can't do that because that's part of the settlement agreement and what we agreed to with Highland Beach. If we open up that settlement agreement, then it voids everything. Like it creates a steamroll effect, basically, that then they can just not do, they can basically halt development on it altogether if the county is the one that chooses to open up the settlement agreement.
And so that's what they voted to do?
That's what they're looking to do.
Oh, my gosh.
So that's what Commissioner Flores was like, well, let's bring this back and talk about it, and then we'll discuss if we want to open up the settlement agreement, which then would make it that Highland Beach could then say, no, we don't want any agreement whatsoever. But it comes
Then what happens if they say that?
From my understanding is that then it becomes, if they can't reach another agreement with Highland Beach, the property sits dormant and there's nothing that can be done with it.
Can the county sell it?
Yes. But I believe that there's a contingency. You'll have to check with the commissioner on this, but I think there's a contingency that if it's not used for a park, the Milani family gets a portion or it gets sold back to the Milani.
That's why he's there. He wants the property back.
I can't say that, but that's what it looks like.
Oh, yucky.
And like I said,
somebody wants to develop it.
Yeah. So I'm saying confirm and do your research on that before confirming that that's the case. But from my understanding and based on the conversation is that that's what it kind of sounded like.
I wonder if there's some shenanigans going on behind the scenes.
Feels that way. Like there's and Commissioner Woodward was talk to staff before you do this. Please talk to staff and get your information and get educated on this before you choose to do this. Please. As the district community commissioner of where this happens, please talk to staff and do your research before doing this.
She said that?
Yes. So hopefully that was okay.
Yikes.
But basically all the commissioners kind of threw her under the bus and was like, let's bring this back and let's talk about it.
People, if you live in District 5.
She actually piped up for Commissioner Woodward.
That's good because it's going to affect her district a lot too because all the western communities who want to hit the beach.
She's like, I'm defaulting to the district commissioner on this. She knows all, she has the information I don't. So
anything else?
And then
she said, a couple things.
Yeah, and then she said that she wasn't educated on it. I did have some stuff to go over with Boynton. I'll quickly kind of go through it so we don't have a whole lot of time.
Hit on some Boca
Boynton, their meeting that happened on Tuesday, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was Tuesday. They had a packed house at their meeting.
Was it about the forest?
Yes. So I'll touch briefly on that. But July 3rd through the 24th, Boynton Beach is doing a chlorine flush. So be aware of that. Palmetto Greens Park, they're doing community events to discuss the future of that park on June 5th and June 12th. Be sure to check the website about information about that. And then there was a whole conversation about Nichols Forest, the Nichols parcel property, which is basically the Boynton Beach Forest, which is Old Boynton Beach Road and like Lawrence area. Mm-hmm. So there's like literally a forest and it has endangered species and there's a bunch of animals and everything that live in there. There was a huge public outcry against development in this because it is it's county. It's county, but the city owns this particular property. And then they were going to sell it to development. without really understanding the whole parameters of this parcel. And it was very awesome. We got to see Commissioner Turkin on the dais say, when I originally did this, I did not do my due diligence and I did not look at this thoroughly. And I apologize that I did that. And this is what we're going to do. And he made a motion to cease all development discussion until an independent environmental study is complete and before any further talks of continuing regarding this project.
Good for him.
He got a round of applause, standing ovation, like the whole 9 yards. So he really stood up for the constituents and what was going on here. And he, first and foremost, like, he apologized. He was like, look, I didn't have all of the information. I saw it as an opportunity for the city to make some, to make some money. I just looked at it as just some trees in an area. Not his words, those are mine. I just want to be very clear. And so, at this point, we need to find out what the environmental impact would be and what lives there and all of that kind of stuff. And it was unanimous support for it. Even Mayor Shelton, she said, oh, good, I'm glad you brought this up. If you didn't, I would have, So it was definitely awesome to see the community of Boynton Beach really kind of get together and be connected on this. And it was really powerful and it was really impressive to watch. And I'm like, Sue and I are looking for a new place to live. Our lease is up. And I'm like, man, I really think I want to move to Boynton.
I know. Well, so it's funny because my personal news is my little baby sister is moving home.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so her and her husband, I know. They're getting out of the hellhole that has become Denver, Colorado.
Oh, yeah, finally, about time.
About time. So they're going to be migrating their way back south over the next few months. They're planning eventually, they're probably going to go to Jacksonville because of better cost of living and blah, 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 blah. But they're going to stay down in South Florida for a few months to just hang out and save up some money and different things and stuff. So, So I literally was like, I was talking to my mom, and mom, we're already, sorry, I hope my family's not going to watch this. They usually don't, but conspiring to like keep them here. How can we keep them here? We need to I was like, Boynton, Mom, we're going to sell around Boynton.
Yeah.
Get her, because my mom's like, she's going to have to live in Boca. She can live in other, I'm like, Boynton. Boynton is the place.
That's a good point.
So,
yeah.
Coming for you, Boynton.
Yeah. So, one last thing, they are looking to increase their parking fees in Boynton. So this was tabled at the last meeting, and so it will be coming back to discuss. So this is something that if you live in the city of Boynton and that you care about, this is a good part of the city business that you may want to pay attention to. So they want to add a $10 fee to parking citations.
Up to $40.
It's interesting. So right now to park, it's $35.
No, $25.
No, it's $35. If you do not pay the fee and get a citation,
right.
It's a $25.
I've heard of cities like that. That happens in Miami. That my brother he would literally not pay for parking when he would go places. He's like, because it's a $25 ticket.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'd be paying $30 for parking. So I just don't pay for parking. And I think it's changed now. Miami changed it. But
so now they want to increase it to a $45 or a $40 fine with a $10 administrative fee. So
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
So I was like, okay, that makes sense. So that's very interesting. So I don't want to, spread the rumor that happens in Boynton, but I just
did.
I know. And then they want to increase the hourly rate from $2.50 to $3.50. There was some discretion, $3, $2.50 and $3.50 to $3.50 with a 1 hour minimum. Now the staff came back and said with a 2 hour minimum, there was conversation about making it a 1 hour minimum. I don't think the commissioners quite understood what that meant because she's like, oh, well, if you just go see the sunrise, you only want an hour. But the point is that it's like you do the 2 hour minimum.
You have to pay for even if you don't stay.
Correct. So like I get it, but also at the same time, like, okay, you're paying the 2 hours. You can leave it anytime. You're not required to stay there for 2 hours. But if you want to stay there for 2 hours, you now have to pay 2 hour, like you have to pay the additional fee. So, regardless, 1 hour minimum. They are going to provide they do want to provide a discount for seniors and veterans for permits for beach parking to $50 a year. For regular residents, it's $65 a year. If you're a non-resident, it's $200 a year. And they're also looking to change the boat ramp fees from $200 a year to $100, or when you use the boat ramp. It's $200 right now, and Commissioner Turkin asked for it to be brought down to $100. So they actually tabled this, which means that they want to get more information from staff and then be able to communicate it. So that would be a good way to, get involved, go to public comment if you go to the beaches in Boynton and that's important to you. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to that. So, and then the chief of police for Delray Beach recently resigned. I'm not sure of all of the details and the data about that. I'm hearing there's a lot of drama regarding that. And their police has been working without a contract for quite some time now. And rumor is that they're trying to get contracted with the PBSO. So instead of having their own department. I'm not sure if that's the case, but that's what the rumor mill is. That's something that I'll be hopefully being able to uncover and find some more information out about our hiatus. And I hope to have a good city or county or city municipality update with all of our cities when we come back on August 7th.
Yes, so we will, because we have full swing of elections in Boca. Nothing's really changed. We still have the same layout, the 3 people running for mayor, same Bernie Korn and Kristen Ritchie running for seat A, Mark Wigder is running currently unopposed in seat B, and Robert Weinroth is running for seat D, which is Andy's seat. Nothing there has changed. There are a couple things, sorry. Excuse me, I know. That I wanted to note the government campus redevelopment partnership project. So this is the area of, if you're familiar with the city of Boca, of the city hall sits on the government property, and then adjacent to that is like the community. There's a community center there, ball fields, the children's museum, that entire property, and including across the street is the police department, the buildings and permitting department, and then the city library. So it's all in all, it's about a 30-acre campus that they are now wanting to develop. So they have a interim master plan with Terra and Frisbee Group. June 1st, they drafted the master plan agreement and lease date, target date. And so here's some dates to remember. June 9th, additional discussion will be related to the interim master plan and city hall. June 10th, City Council will consider adopting the resolution. So that's the city meeting that if you'd like to comment on this City Council will consider adopting the resolution. Public involvement is key. So this is our public property. And I know, and especially I think it's interesting that they're doing it during election season, because the people who are running for office really do want to hear, and they know that people are watching the decisions that they are making. So definitely take a look, take a watch. I do believe that campus does need some TLC. So there is some development that needs to happen on that campus.
It reminds me of like an old 90s elementary school.
Oh yeah, it really is. The city, the community center is not anything anyone would ever want to rent out to do any events or do anything at or be at or hang out. It's really old. It's very old Boca feeling.
It's like lime green everywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely dated. It definitely needs some redevelopment. However, what they want to do with it, I caution to be in the best interest of the city as a whole. It's
a huge capital project that will probably in
$250 million
turn into a tax increase on residents.
Yes, it will. No, it will. They already want to. The idea has already been floated to create a bond. So they want us to pay for development that then they will make money on.
Yeah,
which we technically would, but nothing ever trickles down to the taxpayer. So
correct.
No, we will pay for the development to happen. They will then be able to collect rent because they want to make it into condos, fees, rent from personal rents, residential as well as commercial rent, and create a lot of traffic that none of the current council members would have to deal with.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to widen those roads. The roads that are around that building, that area, you cannot widen. They're right between residential houses, a school, property.
It's a great location for residents to be involved in their city government.
Yes. Yeah.
But
yeah.
nothing of city government really happens there anymore.
No, well, they say it's because the building's so old that they can't go in there anymore, but they still make employees work there. So, you know. So keep that in mind. That's what's happening. Now is the time to be watching it. And there's city council meetings coming up this week. If you are not getting the text messages from the city, last thing, and we can wrap up. We are in our centennial. I got to go to last weekend or over Memorial Day weekend. They had a lot of centennial stuff. And one of them was just really cool at the Innovation Campus at Brick. They did a drone show. It was so cool.
I missed it because we probably could have saw it from
You
our
probably
house.
could have, yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't even think to look outside.
It was very cool. Like it was.
I saw
they
some
did
of the
such a
pictures. It
good
was
job.
awesome.
They did all of these cool scenes from the city. They had like old City Hall with like an American flag, and they had the flag like going up the flagpole with the drone lights. It was very cool, and they did.
We should do that instead of fireworks. I think.
Then they finished with fireworks.
Yeah.
So it was actually very cool. It was a really cool community thing. And so there's going to be a lot of stuff going on over the summer and going into the beginning of November, which is when the centennial was the beginning of November is when we got our charter from the state in 1925.
Yeah.
So, and they kiboshed, by the way, they were trying to create a new flag and it got kiboshed.
I know, I saw that.
Smashed.
They voted for the new flag to remain, or the old flag
to remain. And then I actually have seen people flying the flag around the city since then. So I was like, I need to get a City of Boca flag.
Awesome.
All right, that's all I got. Take care. Reach out to us. Follow us on socials. I am trying to be as active as I can on X with our account to make sure you're following us and interacting with us. We're around. We're not going anywhere this summer. We're just taking a breather.
You can check out our website.
I'll be at the beach.
You can check out our website at WeTheLocalsPodcast.com. That will have all of your information. A great opportunity to get caught up on all of our previous episodes. So if you're new to watching us, it's a great opportunity to see our interviews in the past and things that we've talked about. If you want to email us, if you're interested in sponsorship or more information about the show or how you can help out, you can email us at WeTheLocalsFL@gmail.com. Again, like Josie said, follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on Facebook. Be sure to have a great night, everybody, and stay local. See you August 7th.
Happy summer.
Go Panthers.
Yeah, go Panthers.